trainers, Professor Palm here, and this is Sparta! Well, no, it's not really Sparta, but what it is video 300! That's right, I made it to 300 videos. I have all of you to thank. I also want to welcome all of you trainers to the spooky season. That's right. For the entire month of October, we're going to talk on a couple of creepy Pokemon, as well as some Pokemon that I think deserve to be in the spooky season. After all, the fall has begun, and it's the season of fear. Today, I thought that we would do something really fun. I thought we would do something that fits both the 300 video mark and, of course, the beginning of the spooky season. I was thinking, why don't we talk about something really crazy? Let's talk about the creation. That's right. As you know, Arceus is the creator to almost every Pokemon and human in the world of Pokemon. But Arceus didn't create every single Pokemon that exists. And one of the Pokemon that we've known that was made by humans, of course, is Mewtwo. This, in my opinion, is the equivalent of Frankenstein in the Pokemon world. After all, a lot of things went into creating this Pokemon, as they wanted it to be the ultimate Pokemon and ultimate life form on the planet. Mewtwo is truly one of the strongest Pokemon out there. I would have to say that as of all legendary Pokemon go, they really are strong, but I don't think anything comes as close to being as tough as Mewtwo. Remember, this Pokemon was really different from almost everything out there when it first debuted. And of course, you couldn't even get to this Pokemon until you beat the game. That's how tough Mewtwo was. And a lot of us didn't really just use any normal Pokeball in this thing. We used our Master Ball to catch it because, well, we only get one of them in the game, and it's the only ball that goes without any failure. And if anyone uses it on Mewtwo, I really don't blame you, as this is definitely a great Pokemon to use it for. While this may not be Star Wars, I will say that Mew and Mewtwo had the original clone war. Because Mewtwo made a bunch of clones and Mew also took on its clone, a big brawl went down, and I think that it's pretty funny to think that the first clone war that ever happened was between two different Pokemon, one the real one and the other a clone. Mewtwo really does have one of the craziest stories of all time. This Pokemon went through so much, and I think it deserves more attention. Of course, a lot of us see this as one of the strongest Pokemon alive, but I also see Mewtwo as a very tragic Pokemon, as it went through a lot of things till it finally gained its own freedom. I think that we should learn all about Mewtwo, and I really want to tell you a story. After all, it's a spooky season, and Mewtwo's story is kind of a horror story. I think it's time that we learn all about Mewtwo and what makes it so amazing, especially with those amazing genetics it has. While I agree that not every single legendary Pokemon we have ever looks like another one, I still think that out of all designs, Mewtwo probably has one of the most unique ones, being a pure Psychic-type legendary Pokemon. I know that we've had so many other Psychic-type legendary Pokemon as time has gone on, but Mewtwo was the first one, and this one really set the bar really high. Not only is it unlike every other Pokemon, but it also is probably one of the strongest Psychic-type Pokemon. And remember, Psychic-type was a very powerful typing when it first appeared in Red, Blue, and Green. Mewtwo, do you think that others should learn about your backstory? Do you think that it's right that we talk about this now? After all, it's the spooky season, and I do think that other people really want to hear you out. Mewtwo agrees. Mewtwo thinks that we should all do this. Well, let's learn everything that happened to Mewtwo and its entire lore. It's like a Frankenstein story, and I really think that for the spooky season, this is the best way to start off. But before we do that, I want to give a very special thanks to fellow subscriber, Tommy White, for the request of this video. I know how much you love Mewtwo. I'm sorry it took so long, my friend, but I hope that you enjoy this video to the fullest. Mewtwo is a great Pokemon, and I hope that on your team, it always served you well. I also want to give a very special thanks to my collaboration partner, Primordial Halo, aka Professor Sassafras herself, for making the thumbnail. She is such a talented artist, so please check her out. But you're not the only ones that I'll be thanking today. I want to give a very special thanks and shout out to artist Techronova for my shirt. Today's shirt is The DNA Within. Since we're talking all about Mewtwo and creation, I couldn't think of a better shirt to wear than this one. If you like these shirts that I wear in my videos, You can buy them on Etsy. I have a link to TechRenova's Etsy shop in the description below. So check out TechRenova and maybe buy a shirt. We're a really cool design that really pops out. Stop wearing silly stock image t-shirts. Give a good artist some good business. Oh, and remember to say, Professor Palm sent ya. While I may not be sponsored, I still want to say thank you for all you've done, TechRenova. Also, if you think that I look good in these shirts, I think that you'll look even better. And you'll also be showing who's one of your favorite Pokemon of all time with these shirts. Well, trainers, I hope that you like horror movies or scary stories because we're about to experience one. We're going to learn everything that we need to know about Mewtwo. Well, grab your popcorn and get ready. All right, Mewtwo, let's go back and learn your story. Here we go for the Pokemon that's genetic and also the creation, Mewtwo. Mewtwo, the genetic Pokemon, is based on an embryo, specifically the embryo characteristics. But Mewtwo's structure and much larger appearance with new features has it based on gene splicing. Then again, this Pokemon is genetic and was made through lots of gene splicing and a lot of engineering. Normally I'd like to tell you where you can find Mewtwo, but I can't. As Mewtwo wanders all around the world, there is no set location where Mewtwo could be, as it's constantly traveling. However, in the games, Mewtwo is oftentimes found within the caves, as it prefers to live a life in solitude. Back when Mewtwo first appeared, people said it was the strongest Pokemon ever, and that's why the Master Ball was invented. Well, to be fair, it's true. Mewtwo in Red, Green, and Blue was the strongest Pokemon ever, as it was Psychic type. For those of you who are unaware, back in time, Psychic was the only typing that had no weakness. And being that Mewtwo was a pure Psychic type Pokemon, this Pokemon was like Emperor Palpatine, because it had unlimited power. Mewtwo is probably the most unique Pokemon, as unlike others who were created by the almighty alpha Pokemon Arceus and its 1,000 hands, Mewtwo instead was created by humans. Mewtwo was created by gene splicing and DNA engineering experiments, after some scientists found a strand of Mew's DNA while exploring the ruins. They picked up a little bit of what they think is an eyelash of Mew, brought it back, and decided that they were going to make their own Mew. And with the scientific powers that they had with other Pokemon, they created an entirely new body for it. Mewtwo was created by primarily using the DNA that was found off the Mew eyelash in the ancient ruins, but that wasn't enough as they had more put in. This is when the cloning project turned into a mad scientist experiment, as some scientists used human DNA. Yes, they used human DNA to fill in the missing gaps. This is the main reason why Mewtwo is more human-like than Mew, and it's also why its size and disposition are completely the opposite of Mew. Because of how this clone was turning out to be a complete opposite of Mew, scientists gave it the name Mewtwo. While they wanted it to be like Mew, they forgot to endow Mewtwo with the most important thing that Mew has: a warm and caring heart. Because of the failure to give Mewtwo a caring and warm heart, this turned out to be the downfall to everyone that worked on the project. The moment Mewtwo woke up, it went into a rampage, using its awesome powers, destroying the lab, and murdering everyone within inside of it. It's said that Mewtwo not only was the ultimate life form, but also the most vicious one of all time the moment it was born. Because Mewtwo had lived in a lab and had no real interactions with others, Mewtwo lacked compassion and other emotions. After destroying the lab and all the lives that were in there, it came to the realization only the strong survive. Its power was so strong that it could strike fear into its enemies with just a stare from its cold glowing eyes. Pokemon feared it, and even plenty of humans feared it too. There was one human that wasn't afraid of them, but maybe we shouldn't talk about that one, because that one was nothing more than a huge troublemaker, as it was Giovanni, the boss of Team Rocket. Because Mewtwo's battle abilities were raised to the ultimate level, Mewtwo can only think of one thing when it fights: defeat its foes the most painful way possible. Mewtwo has an unbreakable fighting spirit that's stronger than any other fighting type Pokemon. The moment this Pokemon throws a punch, it will not stop until its enemy lies defeated. While the story may be rather sad that Mewtwo started off as a very violent Pokemon that destroyed anything in its path to prove a point that it was the ultimate being, as time has gone on, good things have happened. Mewtwo has changed, and it's gained so many things that the 3 Lake Guardians all represent. As time has gone on, Mewtwo has gained a lot of knowledge. It knows that not every person out there is bad. It also knows that there are plenty of Pokemon out there that have loyalty and love for trainers. So, Mewtwo has learned new things about the modern world, that it was created, but it also knows that it can do a lot of good with its power. The human DNA has taken a big part to Mewtwo, breaking its cold shell, giving it plenty of emotion. Mewtwo now knows what it means to be happy. It also knows what it means to be sad. It no longer just has the anger emotion. It has all the emotions it needs, and it can even express its feelings now. And of course, Mewtwo over time has gained the insight of willpower. It no longer only thinks of itself as the superior being. It wants to work with everyone to bring a happier day as well as a brighter tomorrow with both people and Pokemon, as it can bridge the gap that it created. Even though our story started off on a sad and then a dark note, I'm happy to say things have gotten even better as time has gone on. There is no true end to the story, as Mewtwo is still alive and well. As time has gone on, Mewtwo has gotten rid of all the hatred and anger it had towards both humans and Pokemon. It's learned to accept it's one of each. This is what makes Mewtwo probably so much different than others. While you may not be able to find it, if you ever do find Mewtwo, remember, it's not your enemy, it's your friend. It'll be fascinated by you, and it also really wants to learn about everything that's going on in the modern world. After all, Mewtwo is both human and Pokemon. It's a very curious creature. Mewtwo has an unstoppable power, and as powerful as Mewtwo is, it got even stronger as time went on. In Generation 6, thanks to Professor Sycamore's Mega Evolution research, we learned Mewtwo could go Mega, and it was the first legendary Pokemon to do it. However, unlike most other Pokemon, Mewtwo can Mega Evolve into 2 other forms. This is mainly due to its incredible genetics. If you played Pokemon X and you wanted Mewtwo to go Mega, it could Mega Evolve into Mega Mewtwo X. In Mega Mewtwo X's form, it gains the Fighting type, as this version of Mewtwo prefers Brawn over Brain. Thanks to Mega Evolution, Mewtwo X's psychic powers have augmented its muscles, turning it into the ultimate fighting machine. Mewtwo has so much power and testosterone, nothing can stop this Pokemon from winning any battle. While it still may have its psychic powers, Mega Mewtwo X focuses more on muscle over mind. It has an incredible strength. This Pokemon can carry things that weigh over a ton. Also, Mega Mewtwo X doesn't really care to fly, as it prefers to sprint. And it's so fast that Mega Mewtwo X can sprint 100 meters in only 2 seconds flat. However, if you played Pokemon Y and you wanted Mewtwo to go Mega, it would Mega Evolve into Mega Mewtwo Y, an entirely different form. While its size may have gone down, this is because Mega Mewtwo Y prefers Brain over Brawn. Because of Mega Evolution, Mega Mewtwo Y's mental power has grown phenomenally. It's even claimed that Mega Mewtwo Y has become the smartest being in the universe. It now has an IQ of over 5,000, and this Pokemon knows secrets even we don't know. Mega Mewtwo Y's psychic powers are unlike anything you've ever seen, as Mega Mewtwo Y can smash a skyscraper to smithereens with just the power of its mind. Not only that, but it can put it back together like nothing happened. With all that power that Mega Mewtwo Y packs, there's only one word that describes its incredible gift: limitless. Mewtwo and Charizard are the most unique Pokemon capable of Mega Evolution, because each of them have 2 Mega Evolution forms, both having an X form and a Y form. On a really cool note, both of their X forms gain an entirely new typing. Oh, and it also makes a lot of sense why both Mewtwo and Charizard are the only ones that have 2, because back in the day, these were the most well-known faces of the franchise, alongside Pikachu. While Mewtwo was the first Pokemon to Mega Evolve that was a legendary, Rayquaza soon followed suit in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, so at least Mewtwo didn't have to feel alone. Where Rayquaza didn't have any sort of type change, Mewtwo did, and also, if you really think about it, Mewtwo was the first Pokemon we ever saw Mega Evolve. Well, maybe not in the anime, it was the first Pokemon that revealed that Mega Evolution was going to be the new gimmick of Generation 6. I guess if you think about it, Mewtwo has always had both sides to it, the brains and the brawn. Its Megas just show both sides to it, and prove that each of them can be equally as powerful. But sometimes, some battles require might, while others require mind. Mewtwo made its anime debut in the first ever Pokemon movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back. With how crazy that movie was, it really set the ground of what other Pokemon movies would be. I'm not going to spoil anything about that, so go check it out for yourself. But Mewtwo did make its main series debut in the Pokemon Indigo League episode, The Battle of the Badge, where Giovanni used it in his battle against Gary. He easily won, and also in this episode, Mewtwo wore its special armor. In the core series games, Mewtwo is the ace of Team Rainbow Rocket leader Giovanni's team. It's crazy to think that after all these years, we finally got to see Giovanni use the Pokemon he helped make as a member of his team. Oh, and in the side series, Mewtwo is the ace of your rival Silver's team in Pokemon Stadium 2, and the final boss of the evil Edward the Thinker in Pokemon Rangers Guardian Signs. In Generation 5, Mewtwo finally gained a signature move, being Psy Strike. It's about time that Mewtwo finally gained itself a signature move. After all, Mewtwo is one of the original legendary Pokemon. In the side series, Mewtwo is the final boss in Pokemon Stadium. In Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Red and Blue Rescuing Team, as well as Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX, Mewtwo is a recruitable Pokemon you can have on your team, but only towards the end of the game and after you defeat it. Mewtwo is one of the most recognizable Pokemon in the entire Pokemon franchise, and there's other things that you should know about it, so here's a few fun tidbits about Mewtwo. Mewtwo is the first Pokemon seen in the English dub. This is because it appears in the beginning of the opening, so technically, this makes Mewtwo the first Pokemon to have ever appeared on screen. Despite being a clone of Mew, Mewtwo comes first in the Pokedex, as it's Pokemon number 150, and Mew is Pokemon 151. If you go through the Pokemon Mansion in any of the Kanto games, you'll learn that Mewtwo has a confirmed birthday, as it was born February 6th. Mewtwo's Mega Evolutions have the highest attack and special attack of all Pokemon we currently have. Also, Mewtwo's Mega Evolutions are tied with Mega Rayquaza for having the highest base stat total of all Pokemon, as each of them have a base stat total of 780. Mewtwo is a playable character in the Super Smash Bros. Series, except for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Mewtwo has served as the final boss in plenty of side series Pokemon games. The first one it ever served as the final boss for was in Pokemon Stadium. Currently, every core series game where you can get Mewtwo in the wild, you always encounter it in a cave. And in the anime, Mewtwo has had 3 different voice actors in both the sub and the dub. And on an interesting note, they've all been male except for the 16th movie, Genesix and the Legend Awakened, where both the sub and dub Mewtwo in that movie were voiced by a female. In the world of Pokemon, almost every Pokemon has a weakness, and Mewtwo, as well as Mega Mewtwo Y being Psychic-type Pokemon, have a couple. So, if you go into battle with these Pokemon, be sure they're not hit with moves that are Bug-type, Ghost-type, and Dark-type. However, Dark-type Pokemon can also spell doom for Psychic Pokemon in 2 ways. Not only are Dark-type moves super effective on Psychic-type Pokemon, but Psychic moves won't do any damage to Dark-type Pokemon. That's right, Dark-type are completely immune to all Psychic moves. Now that we've seen Mewtwo and Mega Mewtwo Y's weaknesses, let's check out their strengths and see what Psychic is super strong in a battle against. Being pure Psychic type, like Mewtwo and Mega Mewtwo Y are, they have a few strengths that give them an edge in a battle. Even though they're very powerful, they gain an extra edge when they use Psychic moves that are super effective on Pokemon that are both Poison type and Fighting type. Oh, only 2 strengths against 3 weaknesses. That's not always the best, but the more you think about it, Mewtwo and Mega Mewtwo Y do learn a lot of powerful moves that really do give them an edge in a battle. So yeah, even with only 2 strengths, they still are pretty good Pokemon. But I think it's time that we shift gears and Mega Evolve Mewtwo into Mega Mewtwo X and see if the Fighting type really gives it an edge in a battle. When Mewtwo Mega Evolves into Mega Mewtwo X, it gains the Fighting type, so it also gains a bunch of new weaknesses. So when you battle with Mega Mewtwo X, make sure you avoid it being hit by moves that are Fairy type as of Generation 6, Flying type, and Ghost type. But being that Mewtwo, when it Mega Evolves, gains the Fighting type, Ghost type also has another horrible thing against it. Because Mega Mewtwo X likes to use fighting moves, Fighting type moves will always pass by Ghost type moves as they're completely immune to it. So, what do you know? Mega Mewtwo X has the same amount of weaknesses as its other sides. Normal Mewtwo and Mega Mewtwo Y. Will it make up for it in strengths? Well, why don't we find out and see if the fighting type really does give it a huge edge in a fight. Mega Mewtwo X really has a huge advantage in a battle. Because of its typing of fighting and psychic, it now has so many strengths and it makes it a force to be reckoned with. If you use Mega Mewtwo X in a battle, use it against Pokemon that are Poison type, Steel type, Fighting type, Ice type, Normal type, Rock type, and Dark type. Finally, after all these years of Dark type hurting Mewtwo, when it becomes Mega Mewtwo X, it gets to beat down Dark type, finally saying, enough, I have the edge in the fight. It's amazing also, this Pokemon has 7 strengths. This really does give Mega Mewtwo X an amazing fighting spirit. Every Pokemon has an ability, and Mewtwo is no exception. For its ability, Mewtwo has pressure, as Mewtwo's glare is pretty scary and it puts many Pokemon that face it under pressure, causing them to expend more PP for their moves they use for battle. When Mewtwo Mega evolves, it can transform into either Mewtwo X or Mewtwo Y, but it's not the only thing that transforms. Its ability Pressure also transforms, as well as Mewtwo gains 2 different abilities. When Mewtwo Mega evolves into Mega Mewtwo X, it gains the ability Steadfast, which raises Mewtwo X's speed every time it flinches. All in all, there's no slowing down Mega Mewtwo X's rampage. Or if you have Mewtwo Mega evolve into Mega Mewtwo Y, it gains the ability Insomnia, which prevents Mega Mewtwo Y from falling asleep. Its psychic powers have become so strong that sleep has become entirely irrelevant to it. For those who like to battle competitively with hidden abilities that were introduced in Generation 5, Mewtwo's hidden ability is Unnerve. Unnerve makes any Pokemon that Mewtwo takes on too nervous to eat berries. It already has a very intimidating appearance, but who would have guessed its intimidation becomes so powerful, even eating is out of the question around it. The more I think about it, Mewtwo is probably the most unique creature in the entire world of Pokemon. Not just because there is no other Pokemon quite like it, but it's because of what it's made of. As you remember, Mewtwo was made from the cloning of a Mew fossil, and they also put human DNA in it, meaning that Mewtwo is part Pokemon and it's part human. So, in many ways, Mewtwo is the best of both worlds. With Mewtwo's awesome power in both its normal form and its Mega evolutions, I can truly see why Mewtwo considers itself the ultimate Pokemon and why plenty of others still consider it the strongest Pokemon ever. But with all that incredible power Mewtwo has within, who knows what other secrets Mewtwo has? Maybe we'll find out in another generation. Maybe we'll even find out a third form, which makes Mewtwo one of the ultimate Pokemon who's ever lived and has ever been created. All these years later, I'm glad that Mewtwo still holds up as one of the most well-known Pokemon of all time. Also, I like how it serves as the boss in several games. It feels fitting, as it was one of the very first legendary Pokemon ever. And yeah, I do know that the 3 legendary birds came before it, but in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure to so many out there, Mewtwo was the very first legendary Pokemon we ever caught, and we also consider it legendary Pokemon number 1. I really like for the first duo, we have both a legendary and a mythical Pokemon. Mew and Mewtwo really make an incredible pair. I'd even go on record and say that this is possibly my favorite duo in the entire world of Pokemon. I also really love the whole story behind it. I like that first they started off as rivals and then they became friends. This is the perfect story to tell anyone, that just because you do have differences doesn't mean you can later on become friends. Sometimes you can get into big fights with others, and in the end, you can also sometimes become the best of friends. I'm glad that both Mewtwo and Mew bridged the gap between both humans and Pokemon together. Arceus may have created the entire world of Pokemon as well as all the people that inhabit it, but I would also say that Mewtwo itself is a creator. Well, yes, we do know that Mewtwo made a bunch of clones and it also created its own island, but I would also say that after Mewtwo learned its ways and decided to learn about humans and Pokemon, this Pokemon created its own path. Yep, I'm happy to say the story of the creation ended with the creation itself becoming a creator. Welcome back, trainers! I brought Mew here with Mewtwo because I just felt that we should have the Mew duo. After all, it's one of the first duos we've ever had in Pokemon. What'd you think about all of Mewtwo's backstory and everything you learned about it? Oh, also, I have a few questions for you. Out of all voice actors we've had for Mewtwo, who do you think is the best, and who do you think was the worst? When it comes to the Psychic-type Pokemon, who's your favorite Psychic-type Pokemon, as well as least favorite Psychic-type Pokemon? Also, do you think that Psychic-type was too OP in Generation 1 and you like the nerf with it being weak to Ghost-type and Dark-type attacks? Or do you think it was better that it was the OP one back in time? When Mewtwo Mega evolves, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer Mewtwo X, where it goes for the brawn? Or do you prefer Mewtwo Y, where it goes for the brain? When it comes to legendary Pokemon, who do you think is the most powerful? Who's your favorite of all time? And also, who is the first one you ever caught? Do you think that Mew and Mewtwo are a good duo? Or do you prefer one over the other? Or do you like them just as equally? Do you think that Mewtwo was just angry over nothing? Or do you think that it's really had it hard? And of course, since this is the spooky season, I just want to leave you with one other thing. Who do you think is the scariest Psychic-type Pokemon out there, and why? This video may be over, but the spooky season has just begun. It's gonna get even scarier! And if you liked what you saw, please leave a like. If you have any questions, you want to answer any of the questions I just threw out at you, you want me to cover another Pokemon line or legendary Pokemon, you want me to talk about something that's going on in the Pokemon news, you want me to talk about something game related or Pokemon related, or you have an idea that you want turned into a video, then please comment. And as always, if you like what you saw and you want to see more, smash that subscribe button. I also hope that you trainers out there share my videos. As a Pokemon professor, I want to meet as many trainers out there in the world of Pokemon. I also hope that you enjoyed this video to the fullest, Tommy White. Also, thank you once again, Primordial Halo, aka Professor Sassafras, for my thumbnail. Thanks for watching, trainers. Palm out!